Oh my goodness. Good morning, good afternoon. Whatever it is for you, I hope you're having a fantastic day. My name is Zach Schomler. This is Strong Opinion Sports, episode 684. Welcome in. It's morning for me, Monday morning. Hope you had a great Thanksgiving. I did. I feel good. I feel rejuvenated. I think it's the right word. Rested. Full of way too much food. Spent a lot of time with family, watched a lot of football. It was an incredible weekend of football that I can't wait to talk about. Recording this morning, recording tonight with Nathan. So do this episode now, then we get to kind of rehash some stuff. Whatever we didn't cover here, I'll cover with Nathan tonight. I'm fired up. I really do feel great, and I really, truly had a ton of fun watching football. Before we do anything, though, today, I got to tell you that this episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. Prize Picks is America's #1 fantasy sports app. Use Prize Picks while you watch NFL games this fall because making picks makes watching games more engaging, and you could turn something like $5 into $50. Prize Picks offers quick and easy deposits. You can even use Apple Pay. So put your skills to the test in daily fantasy. Go to prizepicks.com/CLNS and use code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. That is prizepicks.com/CLNS using code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. Prize Picks, daily fantasy made easy. All right. NFL football was incredible. College football was incredible. Let's start with Sunday Night Football. It's the most recent thing that happened. Sunday Night Football wasn't a great game. On Sunday Night Football, the Buffalo Bills beat the 49ers 35-10. Game was in Buffalo. It was a blowout. It wasn't a very good game. It was fun because it was snowy, and I like any game in the snow. It's kind of cool. It's kind of fun. The Buffalo Bills are now 10-2. They have clinched the AFC East. Good for them. Well done. They are, unlike the Baltimore Ravens, the Bills are getting it done and winning the games they should. It's interesting. You can argue about strength of schedule. I think I give up. I concede a little bit that the Ravens have had a harder schedule, but hey, the Bills take care of business. The Ravens have their own issues. We can talk about that later in the show. But here's the big storyline. Again, Sunday Night Football, not a great game, 35-10. The snow was fun. However, the 49ers season is most likely over. They are 5-7. Now, theoretically, they're only 2 games back in the NFC West. The team that leads the division is 7-5. They're 5-7. So, they're 2 games back. They could get it together and make a playoff game, I guess. That's not out of the realm of possibility. But they're not going anywhere in San Francisco. And here's the crushing news. 49ers running back Christian McCaffrey is out for the year with a PCL injury. It's a part of your knee. So he battled tendonitis in his calf. Now he's got a knee injury. Year is done. Had a non-contact knee injury. It was announced, the injury, very quickly after the game. Usually, you wait till the next day. Let's get some testing done. No. They were like, hey, McCaffrey's out. He's done. Some of that's context. You read between the lines, hey, why did Kyle Shanahan come out so quickly and say he's out for the year? Here's the injury. Probably because McCaffrey was like, I'm done. We're 5-7. I've been already hurt. I want to just go get fully healthy. Some of it was McCaffrey. Some of it was the situation. Hey, I'm not healthy. Our team is losing. I'm going to take the year off. There's a lot of factors to this. Here's what's really interesting. They did not give Christian McCaffrey a pitch count. This is a guy who I think came back a little early. I don't know that he played well. But when you're not 100% healthy, you start to overcompensate. Other things get hurt. And they used him a ton. In this game against Buffalo, for example, he was in for 14 plays. He had the ball 9 of 14 plays. 2 catches, 7 runs. And you got to wonder, again, did they bring him back before he was totally healthy? And what's weird about it, there was no pitch count. There was no management. It felt like desperation from the 49ers organization. We're 5-6. We need to win. Hey, and I get it. Look. If you're going to lose, if you're going to try to save your season, you go down swinging with your best player, touching the football a ton. I get why, but it's interesting to me. The way that comes across is, hey, we're desperate. We need to win. And the question is Kyle Shanahan's job safe? The head coach of the 49ers, some 49ers fans, you talk to them, they want Kyle Shanahan gone. I think they're crazy, but I don't know that it makes sense for Kyle Shanahan to stay in San Francisco either. Like, it's a really interesting conversation. Do the 49ers want him back? Would he want to be there? Everyone's getting older in San Francisco. Trent Williams, the left tackle, is going to have to retire soon. McCaffrey's out for the year. He's injured again. You about have to pay Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy's fine. Who knows what kind of money he's going to want? And if you overpay Brock Purdy, you end up like the Dallas Cowboys, where you're beholden to this quarterback that can't get you where you need to go. We've seen him now. Brock is awesome. He really is. He's a great story. He wins a lot of football games. He's good enough. How much of it is him? How much of it is the system he played? Remember, Jimmy Garoppolo took the 49ers to a Super Bowl in Kyle Shanahan's system as well. I don't want to take anything away from Brock. He does some good stuff. He is mature. He handles pressure fairly well. I just don't know. Does it make sense for Kyle Shanahan to stay in San Francisco? Does he want to be there? Or could Kyle Shanahan go to maybe Chicago as a head coach? I don't know how he gets out of there. Do they fire him? Do they trade him? I don't know what that looks like. I just know if I'm Kyle Shanahan, a coach who's got a lot of potential, who's really talented and can clearly coach his butt off with good players around him. You read the tea leaves, the future of the 49ers organization. The end is near to the current group they have. Kittle's getting older. Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk's injured right now. McCaffrey's hurt. Brock Purdy's got to get paid. Trent Williams going to retire. Like the writing's on the wall. Hey, this is heading in a different direction, and not a good one. And certainly the current group of players they have isn't sustainable in San Francisco. Again, I repeat, would Kyle Shanahan want to be there? I wouldn't. I know that's crazy. But I'd love to see Kyle Shanahan coach with an incredible quarterback. I would really like that. I think him and Caleb Williams is really interesting. I think Kyle Shanahan and Trevor Lawrence in Jacksonville is really interesting. Get the man a truly difference maker at quarterback who, man, doesn't, I don't know. I think about Chicago a lot. That's a place I want to see him. Either way, I think the year's over for San Francisco. Their running back's out. And the way they used him stunk of desperation. I wonder, is Kyle Shanahan's job safe? You use Christian McCaffrey as much as you possibly can because you're trying to save your season. I get it. But the responsible thing would have probably been to have a pitch count, to manage your player, not use him 9 to 14 plays. I don't know. Let's get the guy. Again, your back's up to a wall. You're going to use your best player to try to get out of that corner. But is that why McCaffrey's hurt today? Maybe. And again, the timing of announcing the injury was so fast. There wasn't any hesitation. There wasn't any, let's see, I think McCaffrey probably said, I'm done. All right. The number one matchup I was most excited for this weekend in the NFL was the Philadelphia Eagles at the Baltimore Ravens in Baltimore. And here's what happened. The Eagles beat the Ravens 24-19. It was, the storyline I was hoping we would get was that, hey, this is the matchup of the two best running backs in football. Saquon Barkley, Derrick Henry, they're the top two leading rushers by like about 600 yards. And on paper, it really wasn't the matchup we didn't get what I wanted. It was okay. Like, from rushing yards, Saquon won, had 23 carries for 107 yards and a touchdown. Derrick Henry, 4 fewer carries, 19 carries, 82 yards. So just rushing, Saquon won. It's a little bit different when you look at total yards, because when you add receiving yards, Derrick Henry had 111 total yards, Saquon Barkley 117. It's neck and neck. It was cool. It was interesting, I guess. But the running back matchup really wasn't the storyline that ended up being the meaningful one. I was like, it's cool. It's interesting. But I have two really big takeaways from this football game. Number one, the Eagles' defense really impressed me. Whether it was some really good open field tackles on Lamar Jackson or Derrick Henry, like Cooper DeJean, the rookie corner, had a really incredible tackle of Derrick Henry in the open field. You're like, oh, whoa. That is, what did Coach Dan Casey on Instagram call it? He said it's teaching tape. Like, that's the example of how to make a form tackle in the open field. It was like, wow. Oh, and by the way, kid had good coverage downfield. The entire defense did. They generated pressure. Philly's 10-2. Their defense is playing well. They run the ball well. They got a solid quarterback. They got playmakers at receiver. By the way, they won without Devontae Smith, their other receiver. 100% today, Philly is a Super Bowl contender. Detroit, then Philly. Those are the two teams right now, in my opinion. And I think the numbers, like the standings, show that too. But as far as who's got a chance to win a Super Bowl, it should be Detroit or Philly in the NFC, and then everyone else. So that's number one. The Eagles are a problem. They look really good. They're playing good football. Number two is this. It's about the Ravens. It's concerning. The Ravens, shockingly, have a kicker problem. And I never thought I would say that about the Baltimore Ravens. The Ravens lost by 5 points. They left 7 points on the board. They had 3 missed kicks, 2 field goals, and an extra point. That's 7 points. They could have scored. They should have scored. They didn't. And I think this Ravens team is really talented. Look, Nelson Aguilar, for example, dropped a couple passes that, God, I'm probably going to need him. But I look around at this roster and go, hey, great running back, a lot of good weapons. They're doing some stuff. They're trying. They got a shot at a Super Bowl this year in Baltimore. Now, it feels like it's slipping. They're 8-5, not beautiful, not great. It's 2 more losses than I would like. But I think the Ravens have a shot at a Super Bowl this year. They're in the mix. However, their kicker, Justin Tucker, is becoming a weakness, actually. Again, it's a shock. He's been the best kicker in the NFL for a long time. You could argue until this year, best kicker I've ever seen in my entire life. But Justin Tucker's having the worst year of his career. And at some point, he's got to turn a corner and figure it out because he's a liability. You don't trust him to make a kick when you need one. He cost them the game. That sucks. I don't like that. It's not cool to say. I feel bad about it. But it's not the first time I've seen missed kicks cost Baltimore a game this year. And I never expected, hey, the guy who's been the best kicker in the league for years would become a limitation in Baltimore. Is his family life okay? Is he okay? Is he going to retire? I have so many questions. What's going on? Does he have the yips? I don't know. Until this year, Justin Tucker didn't get the yips. He was unflappable. Didn't matter. There was nothing you could do to rattle the guy. I don't know what's happening. Is it mechanical? Is it in his head? I mean, there's a lot of factors I don't understand about kicking. But either way you look at it, hey, the Ravens kicking situation is a limiting factor on this football team. Right now, it's a liability. And they're losing games now because of it. If the Ravens are going to win a Super Bowl, which they've got a shot to do, they're in position, especially look around. Hey, Buffalo lost their number one receiver, and the Chiefs kind of have taken a step backward. The AFC feels wide open. Burrow and the Bengals are out. They're a non-factor. The Steelers, the team leading your division, by the way, they finally had a great performance out of Russell Wilson, but all year the quarterback's been a question in Pittsburgh. Like, this, if there's ever a year for Baltimore to come out of the AFC and get to the Super Bowl, this is the year. Where everyone else is vulnerable, you got to strike with irons hot and take advantage. However, they got this glaring problem, the kicking game, which shouldn't be a problem because you got Justin Tucker kicking. However, he's really struggling. It's an issue now that I haven't wanted to say that. I've wanted to dance around it, but the truth is it's a legitimate, real problem now in Baltimore. The kicking game is a limitation. I want to shift gears now to, I know, rough transition, by the way. I saw a really impressive performance during NFL Week 13. The Steelers beat Cincinnati during NFL Week 13. Game was in Cincinnati. It's an away game for Pittsburgh. The Steelers won 44-38 over the Bengals in Cincinnati. And, on paper, the Steelers' defense forced 3 turnovers from Joe Burrow. He threw an interception. He had 2 fumbles. That's great, but let's not pretend the Steelers' defense had their best day. They gave up 4 touchdowns and a field goal. And when your defense isn't the one calling the shots and leading your team to victory, your quarterback has to step up and score points. most of the time when Pittsburgh plays a football game this year is going to be, hey, our defense is going to keep us in this game. We got to score enough points to win. But this was a rare moment where, hey, the defense is having an off day. They're giving up points left and right. We're trading touchdowns. Our quarterback's got to make enough plays to win a football game. And guess what? The Steelers quarterback, Russell Wilson, did exactly that. He did what needed to be done. He had a great game. This was, in fact, the best game I've seen Russell Wilson have in years. Since someday a long time ago in Seattle, I haven't seen Russell Wilson play that well. And by the way, Russ had to overcome adversity in this football game. Very first drive of the game for Pittsburgh. Throws a slant to George Pickens. Receiver falls down. Defender grabs it, takes it for a pick six, and you're like, oh, that sucks. Not his fault, but that sucks. On the day, Russell Wilson was 29 for 38 passing, 414 yards through the air, 3 touchdowns. That one interception I talked about, not his fault. Again, this is by far the best game I've seen Russell Wilson play in years. And what's happening is he's starting to answer a major question mark in Pittsburgh. Because if Russ can do that every week, 400 yards, a great completion percentage, take care of the football, be accurate over the top, extend plays a couple times a game, because he did everything. Extended plays, was accurate, was on time, made some big throws downfield, over the top, beating the defense. If Russ can do that every week, the Steelers can win the Super Bowl for real. All year, it's been like, they're kind of frauds. Their defense is great. Their defense is, frankly, carrying them. And the big question is, hey, if the defense has a bad game, can the quarterback in Pittsburgh get it done? Now the answer is yes. We just saw that. Oh, whoa. Oh, my gosh. They've got a great defense. But if they're going to have an off day, can the quarterback make plays? And we saw that. Again, week 13, we saw that. Apparently, yes. The quarterback, Russell Wilson, can make plays when he needs to. Oh, and by the way, it's only year 1 for Russell Wilson in Pittsburgh. Year 1 in a new offense, which means that he seems to be getting better week to week, which makes sense. He's getting more and more comfortable and familiar in what is a new system that he joined and started playing mid-year because he started the year injured. He seems to be getting better every single week. This is a major developing story in the NFL. Can Pittsburgh become a legitimate threat to win a Super Bowl? That is the question. Today, right now, Monday, December 2nd, Pittsburgh is 9-3. They're the number 3 seed in the AFC, and they've got a comfortable 2-game lead in the AFC North. The only thing you really look at Pittsburgh and say they got to fix that. Their kicking game is great. The defense is great. They protect the quarterback. Russ extends plays. They're running the ball well. They got 2 running backs. They got a couple receivers. They got 1 receiver they got to fix. They got 1 young guy. Young receiver, George Pickens, who, love the kid, makes a lot of plays. He's got to control his emotions. That's the Achilles heel right now. Like, the only nitpicky thing, you can look at Pittsburgh and go, they got to clean that up. It's the young receiver having too many emotional outbursts, and it's causing the team to get penalties that are unnecessary. You make a big play downfield, and you come back 15 yards. That happened multiple times on Sunday. That can't happen. That's a fixable thing. That's a very easily fixable thing. Hey, George, no hand motions, no talking. Make your play, shut your mouth, move on. That's the biggest problem on the. If that's your worst problem as a football team, one guy who's a bit mouthy, you're in a great spot. And do I trust Russell Wilson yet? No, I don't. I got to see more of what we saw week 13. I got to see more of him with 400 yards, a great completion percentage, really accurate, extending plays, making good decisions. That was his best performance all year. I'm curious how he follows it up. But for real, if that's how Russell Wilson's going to play week to week, everyone's got to be put on notice. Hey, the Steelers are for real. They play the Browns again next week. Then they play at Philly, then at Baltimore, then Kansas City. Philly, Baltimore, Kansas City, back to back to back. And Baltimore and Kansas City, they play 4 days apart. In Baltimore, then in Pittsburgh. Philly's not a long road trip. It's across the state. But Philly's a tough environment against a Super Bowl contender. So let's say you beat Cleveland next week in Pittsburgh. You lost to them a couple weeks ago in a blizzard in Cleveland. I can excuse that. You should beat Cleveland next week in Pittsburgh. But then at Philly, at Baltimore, then Kansas City. You go 3-0 in that stretch, and then, man, you're a Super Bowl contender. You go 2-1, and your quarterback looks great in all 3 games, then I'm going to say, hey, the Steelers are for real. I feel that way now, like it's probably true, but I don't trust it yet. I want to see more. But again, we have a developing story right now. The Pittsburgh Steelers are starting to look like a Super Bowl contender. Their defense is awesome. Quarterback's making plays, dude. And what a cool story for Russell Wilson, by the way. I thought his career was done. I thought he was cooked. They talked about let Russ cook. He cooked, and it was bad in Denver. He got cooked and looked terrible. To see him, no matter what you say about him, to see him have a resurgence of his career where he's playing well, he's winning games, it's unexpected in Pittsburgh, and it's very cool to see. And I'm a fan. I've been rooting for Pittsburgh this year. I really, really enjoy Russell Wilson. I love Mike Tomlin. I think the characters, TJ Watt made a bunch of plays against the Bengals. I find the Steelers incredibly compelling. And part of it's because they're unexpected. I knew Buffalo was going to be all right. They got Josh Allen. I knew the Ravens would be good. I knew Kansas City would be good. I knew Detroit would be good. I thought the Eagles would be good. I had no expectation from Pittsburgh this year, and they've been a surprise. And it just keeps getting better and better. They're 9-3. Baltimore's 8-5. Oh, by the way, if you got HBO, the Hard Knocks, the in-season Hard Knocks HBO special at the end of the year is not one team. It's AFC North. It's Pittsburgh, Baltimore, Cincinnati, and Cleveland, all of them. So no one can complain, hey, Hard Knocks is here. It's a distraction. Now you all got to deal with it. And it's Jameis Winston, Joe Burrow, Zach Taylor maybe getting fired, Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry, Russell Wilson, Mike Tomlin on camera week to week. I can't wait for that. It's going to be great. Hard Knocks in season with the NFC North, the AFC North, going to be fantastic. Can't wait for that. And I know I've become a Steelers fan. I don't trust it yet. I say every week, like, hey, I've never had a favorite team until this year. I picked one. I love my choice. I picked them early before I trusted them. But now I'm like, I'm not a homer. I'm like, really, for real? If Russ does that every week, that might be a Super Bowl team. But he's got to do that every week, and I don't trust that yet. Let's see how the next 4 games go for Pittsburgh. But again, 3-game stretch. At Philly, at Baltimore, at home against Kansas City. That's a great opportunity to earn my respect. We'll see how they handle that stretch of games. I don't know what to make of that. But remember, this is a Steelers team that beat Baltimore without a touchdown. They won 18-16 with 6 field goals. Insanity. I find it really interesting. All right. As the days get shorter, it's important to be smart with your time. Let Factor take care of shopping, prepping, cooking, and cleaning up. Let them take those things off your daily list of things to do. Factor lets you choose from 6 menu preferences to help you manage calories, maximize protein intake, avoid meat, or simply eat well balanced. And check this out. Factor is a cheaper option than takeout or dining out. You can put the money you save towards holiday shopping or reaching your financial goals. You can find guilt-free comfort foods like home-style chicken and gravy and loaded mashed potato pork chops. You can also find feel-good vegan options like sweet potato and chickpea curry. Plus, there are also globally inspired flavors like Peruvian shrimp and red pepper cauliflower grits. Stay on your A game with quality ingredients you can trust and quality you can taste in every one of Factor's fresh, never frozen meals. And most importantly, Factor can provide high-quality food that's ready to eat quickly. Head to factormeals.com/SOS50 and use the code SOS50 to get 50% off your first box and 20% off your next month. That's code SOS50 at factormeals.com/SOS50 to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next month while your subscription is active. I need water so bad. How long is that even? I feel like I've been going for 5 minutes. It's been 25 minutes already. Oh my gosh. I'm fired up. It was a great, incredible weekend of football. I really thought college, pro, every level this weekend delivered. It was kind of a slow week. You know, week 10, 11, 12 of the NFL season kind of, we're watching like more like the Carolina Panthers. I got to watch the Jaguars. I don't care about the Jaguars. Like, ugh. But finally, we got it going. It was a lot of really good football games. I loved it. Although I did mention the Jaguars, let's talk about them. During NFL Week 13, Houston beat Jacksonville 23-20. Now, Jaguars quarterback Trevor Lawrence got knocked out of the game in the second quarter. Houston led 6-3. 2nd and 7, Trevor Lawrence runs for 6 yards. He slides, he gets down, he gives himself up. And then boom! Azeez Al-Shaair makes a late, dirty hit right to the helmet of Trevor Lawrence, right in the face. Trevor's in concussion protocol immediately. It's not really funny. It's like, oh, whoa. And in my opinion, here's the only thing I care about from this whole situation. That's got to be a 3-game suspension. If a defender does that to a franchise quarterback, late hit, dirty low, to the helmet, head-to-head, blatant targeting, awful decision by Azeez Al-Shaair. He was like arguing and yelling as he went out the field, dude, no, you can't. I'm sorry. Hey, have some self-awareness. You can't hit a quarterback like that. And I feel kind of weird saying that. I know you want to be tough and take a hit, whatever, but like, no, you can't mess with the stability of an NFL franchise like that. Like, I'm sorry. You just can't hit a quarterback, especially one slide. If the guy leans into you, hit him. I'm all for that. If he slides and gives himself up, you can't. You got to take it. You got to take off. You got to ease off the brakes or hit the brakes, ease off. Don't kill the guy. He got ejected for the hit. Trevor Lawrence is in concussion protocol. Now, Mac Jones, the Jaguars' backup quarterback, came in, played fairly well. They lost by 3, 23-20. But there's got to be a severe punishment. If you're a defender who hits a quarterback like that, late, dirty hit, knocks a franchise quarterback out of a game, and potentially alters their season, but also, like, you want to win a game, you knock a quarterback out of a game. It's an easy way to win a football game. You hit a quarterback like that, you're most likely to beat that team. And so you got to outlaw that immediately. The way to do it is you're suspended now without pay for 3 games. That's how you handle that. You can't hit a quarterback late and dirty in the face. I'm very pro defense. I think playing defense is incredibly hard. I feel bad for NFL corners. It's an impossible task. The only time I'll really strongly defend a player, especially a quarterback, is if they slide. They do everything in their power to not take a hit. Hit a quarterback. I love it. Tackle them. If they're going to lower their shoulder and try to run you over, embarrass them. Don't let quarterbacks try to run you over. But if the guy slides, you cannot take his head off. Got to be a 3-game suspension without pay minimum, in my opinion. That's how I handle that if I'm the NFL. Who knows? By the time this comes out, that might have been already handed out, but I think it's very clear you got to penalize and punish that mightily. Let's go all the way back to Thursday. Thanksgiving Day. On Thanksgiving, the Green Bay Packers beat Miami 30-17. It was a really nice win. The Green Bay Packers are now 9-3. They've won 3 in a row. By the way, little side tangent here, but here are the 3 losses by Green Bay this year. They lost a weird game on a really crappy turf field week 1 in Brazil Sao Paulo, Brazil. They lost to a really good Eagles team by 5, 29-34. Like, that's a tough... you play a great game against a good team in a weird situation, terrible field conditions. I can handle that. I can handle that loss. As far as losses go, that's not a bad loss in my opinion. They lost by 2 points to Minnesota, a good football team, and they lost to Detroit by 10. That's it. All 3 contenders they've lost to. Close games, good games, competitive games. And watching Green Bay the last couple weeks has forced me to ask an uncomfortable question. Why is it that we don't view the Green Bay Packers as a Super Bowl contender? What is keeping Green Bay from becoming a Super Bowl contender? What is it about them that makes me go, I don't know that they're there yet? And the honest answer is kind of crappy. I feel bad about it. I just think it's experience. I don't trust them yet. It's only Jordan Love's second year as a starter. They were the youngest team in the NFL last year. They're still the youngest team in the NFL this year. That's 2 years in a row. They're incredibly young. They have one guy over 30 going into the year to start the year. The honest truth is Green Bay is dangerous. They just don't have a resume yet. They don't have a reputation they've built through years of weathered, tough victories. But when I'm honest about them, I go, man, I see a team that they play good defense. They run the ball well. They've got a quarterback that can make every throw. And look, especially like Detroit, looking like Detroit after this year is going to lose their offensive and maybe even defensive coordinator. Like Detroit after this year might take a bit of a nosedive where they lose everyone, kind of brain drain, like we saw in Philly a couple years ago when Jonathan Gannon and Frank Reich left. When you lose 2 coordinators in the same year, that's a tough loss. And unlike Detroit, who's going to lose some guys, the future in Detroit is really bright. Sorry, I mean, I think that's true also, by the way, but the future in Green Bay is really exciting. A lot of young players, coordinators want to be there. They don't have the resume yet. I think they got something to prove, in my opinion. But I look at Green Bay, and the only reason I can think of them not as a contender is just because they're young, and I don't trust them. I don't know them well enough with years of experience. Like, I've seen Detroit win big games and blow people out, and I've seen the Packers get to 9-3 this year. They got 3 tough losses that are like good losses, and I go, you know what? Like, I think a couple more victories and an impressive win here or there, and we're talking about the Green Bay Packers as maybe the team representing the NFC in the Super Bowl. Are they better than Philly? Are they better than Detroit? Well, they lost to them, but they could beat either one of those teams on the right day. And if Green Bay gets hot, they're probably in the Super Bowl. So I don't think they're the favorite. I don't know that they're a contender. But the conversation's leading that direction where you're like, hey, this Packers team is kind of good. They're kind of starting to make some noise that we got to pay attention to eventually. I'm waiting for the resume to accumulate. But let's acknowledge a future path for them. It's really, really, really bright. The future of the Green Bay Packers. By the way, I am really worried about Dolphins head coach Mike McDaniel. I love the guy. He is awesome. The Dolphins are 5-7. Now, it's tough because their quarterback Tua missed a couple games with like a horrible head injury. And it's like that really does affect your record. You don't have your quarterback who's incredibly meaningful to your football team. And recently, Tua has been playing great. Last 3 games, Tua's got a 77% completion percentage. He's throwing the ball a ton. 970 yards, 9 touchdowns, no interceptions, 3 games in a row now. Tua's been great. And watching Thanksgiving against Green Bay, Tua was really good. And Miami was really undisciplined. They lost because their coaching wasn't good enough. They looked Really, really undisciplined as a football team. Messy. Badly coached is the word that immediately comes to mind. And that sucks because I love their coach. Mike McDaniel is awesome. But is he just an offensive coordinator? Is he just a guy who probably needs to be supervised by a head coach? I don't like that. I'm a big fan of the guy. He's my favorite head coach in the NFL. But I look at Mike McDonald, different name, but very similar, the defensive head coach in Seattle, and go, all that guy needs is an offensive coordinator. Ryan Grubb, not getting it done in Seattle as the offensive coordinator. The defensive head coach, Mike McDonald's killing it. And you pair Mike McDonald with Mike McDaniel in Seattle, you got a great team right there. I think Mike McDaniel as the offensive coordinator in Seattle, coaching under Mike McDonald, would be a grand salami. That's what Dave Niehaus, former Mariners broadcaster, get the rye bread and mustard, folks. We got a grand salami. He used to say that all the time. That's how I would feel about Mike McDaniel as the offensive coordinator in Seattle. It would be be a grand slam. It'd be incredible. I think he's a bit over his skis. I think as head coach, Mike McDaniel he can't manage it. He just looks like a guy who can't reel it in. He can't get everyone on the same page. It's messy. Guys are fighting after every play. It's chippy. They're disorganized or committing horrible penalties. But dude's a hell of an offensive coordinator. And if you give him just that role and that's the scope of his job, I think he'd be amazing at it. And you pair him with, again, Mike McDonald in Seattle, a responsible, good defensive head coach who, sorry, but he's not the offensive coordinator. He needs one. That's a match made in heaven, in my opinion. And they could be business partners for a long time and win a lot of football games, in my opinion. This is old news. We got to talk about it, though. We don't have to. I want to. I find it a bit interesting. There's not a lot. Because it's old news, we don't have to linger on it, but the Chicago Bears have fired their head coach, Matt Eberflus. They did it Friday morning after a terrible loss by Chicago to Detroit on Thanksgiving Day. Chicago lost 23-20. At one point, they had the ball on the 25-yard line. Now that got quickly called back by a penalty. So Chicago really had the ball on the 35-yard line with 36 seconds left and a timeout. And then Caleb Williams took a sack, so now it's third and long, excuse me. Ball on the 41-yard line, third down. And the obvious thing to do is call a timeout, organize yourself. You need like 4 yards to get into field goal range. And they didn't call a timeout. They got to the line, they ran a play, and time ran out, and the game was over. And everyone watching at home was like, do they not know? Do they actually not know they've got a timeout? What are they doing? Call a timeout. Organize yourself. Get the field goal team ready to run on the field if the guy gets tackled in bounds. Run a healthy play with no urgency. Take your time. Relax. Kick the field goal, tie the game, go to overtime. That's the easy, obvious thing. And anyone who plays Madden would know that. I'm pretty sure my grandma, who knows very little about football, knows, hey, you don't end the game with the timeout in your back pocket and let the clock run out. No one in their right mind does that. That's what Chicago did. It was an utter failure from the head coach. Terrible clock management. And it was another coaching error in Chicago, keeping them from winning. They're 4-8. They've lost multiple games with failures in the fourth quarter that are just really hard to stomach. Blocked field goals, Hail Marys, now this. It's a frustrating loss. And look, some people who are coordinators are not head coaches. Matt Eberflus was a good defensive coordinator in Indianapolis. Respect. I respect the guy. Good defensive coordinator. As a head coach, he was 14-32. He was a terrible head coach. God bless him. And I'm begging you in Chicago, please hire an offensive head coach to help Caleb Williams. Mike McDaniel might be out there. I would do it. You don't want him as your head coach probably forever, but he's the guy to develop Caleb Williams because he did that for Tua. If Kyle Shanahan's out there, go get Kyle Shanahan. Gobble up whatever offensive head coach you can who's responsible, who can help Caleb Williams develop. That's all I want. And I will say this. I don't know that this is controversial, but I want to make it very clear. I do not believe Ryan Poles, the general manager, is the problem. I think his job is safe. It's hard to imagine them firing their general manager, given that I don't think the players are the problem. The guy picking the players is doing a great job in Chicago, personally, I think. They got talent everywhere. They're ready to win. They need a head coach who knows how to call a timeout with 36 seconds left. They need a head coach who doesn't botch the fourth quarter all the time. And they need an offensive head coach, in my opinion. But I think Ryan Poles is safe. Let him hire a better head coach, and you're cooking with gas. I really think the Bears have a future that's promising and bright. But the next head coach is a crucial decision that has to go well for them. I think there's going to be a lot of options. I can't wait to see who they hire. I'm glad they fired Matt Eberflus. I hate saying that. He's a nice man. His beard looks good. He's a good defensive coordinator. He was a bad head coach. All right. How do you keep track of all your subscriptions? Can you tell me for sure how many you have and who is taking money from you each month? Have you ever had trouble canceling a subscription or discovered you were being charged for something you didn't think you should be charged for? Well, Rocket Money can help you. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that finds and cancels your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps to lower your bills. I can see all of my subscriptions in one place, and if I see something I don't want, I can cancel it with a few taps. I never have to get on the phone with customer service. Plus, they'll even try to get you a refund. Can't even talk. They'll even try to get you a refund. I wish I could refund that sentence for the last couple months of wasted money and negotiate to lower your bills for you by up to 20%. All you got to do is take a picture of your bill, and Rocket Money takes care of the rest. Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has helped save its members an average of $720 a year, with over $500 million in canceled subscriptions. So stop wasting money on things you don't use. And just remember, Zach is the guy who screwed up the Rocket Money ad. So if you're trying to remember what this was, this is a Rocket Money ad. They're great. You can use them to cancel your unwanted subscriptions by going to rocketmoney.com/SOS. That's rocketmoney.com/SOS. rocketmoney.com/SOS. All right. This past weekend, college football week 14 was an unbelievable weekend of college football. First of all, number one is that Georgia beat Georgia Tech, but barely. It was so much fun to watch. It's me, it's my future mother-in-law. Molly's asleep next to me. Me and my mother-in-law are watching Georgia Tech take Georgia to not 1, not 2, not 3, not even 5, but 8 overtimes. Georgia beats Georgia Tech 44-42. It was incredible. It was so much fun. Shout out to Georgia Tech quarterback Haynes King. What a valiant effort. Dude had 5 total touchdowns. Game of his life. Does it against Georgia. It's awesome. Was 26 for 36 passing. 303 passing yards. 2 touchdown passes plus another 24 carries. 110 yards rushing. 3 touchdowns running. So 5 total touchdowns. Georgia Tech led the game 20-6 in the fourth quarter. Then later with 8 minutes left, Georgia Tech led 27-13. And somehow, Georgia found a way to come back. It was crazy. As much as I was kind of rooting for Georgia Tech, I love the underdog. It would have been cool. You got to respect Georgia for finding a way to win. So Georgia Tech was unbelievable. It was really cool. And then Texas beat Texas A&M 17-7, their first time playing each other in 13 years. So the SEC title is going to be Georgia against Texas. And here's the fun part of this storyline. Look, I think Georgia proved to be vulnerable. They almost lost to Georgia Tech. Well, Texas is 11-1 this year. The only loss Texas has all year was in October. They lost 30-15 to none other than Georgia. It's a rematch. It's fun. SEC title game is going to be incredible. I can't wait for that. I just hope it's not somehow a blowout. I'd be very sad. Now, Ohio State choked. And that was fun. That was glorious to watch. I was rooting for one underdog. They didn't get it done. But Michigan beat Ohio State at Ohio State, by the way, in Columbus at the Horseshoe. Michigan beat Ohio State 13-10. It was glorious. I loved it. By the way, now Ohio State will not play for the Big Ten title. They're out. Awesome. And in the loss to Michigan, Ohio State's quarterback Will Howard threw 2 awful interceptions. One in the red zone, one back way up on their own goal line. So deep in your own territory, deep in their territory. Either side of the field, it's horrible. Also, Ohio State missed 2 field goals, so no Jim Harbaugh. And yet still, Ohio State couldn't beat Michigan. Not a good Michigan team, by the way, either. It's hilarious. And the most funny part about all of this, by the way, a quarterback was the downfall for Ohio State, in my opinion. They could have had Cam Ward, who's the best quarterback in college football. They didn't want to pay Cam Ward the money he wanted, which is lunacy. You could have probably had a national title with Cameron Ward, but you didn't want him. You didn't want to pay him. Fair enough. So now the Big Ten title is going to be Oregon against Penn State. Ohio State's out. Here's what's even funnier, though. So the Miami Hurricanes, Cameron Ward's team, they lost 42-38 to Syracuse. Guess who Syracuse quarterback is? It's Kyle McCord, the former Ohio State quarterback from last year. Ohio State didn't want him. They wanted Will Howard instead. Kyle McCord looked great against Miami. I think he would have been better than Will Howard in the 2 games they lost. Penn State. Sorry, I guess they beat Penn State. He looked terrible at Penn State. The games they lost, Oregon and Michigan. And he had a terrible performance. They've won anyway against Penn State. I think Kyle McCord literally would have been better for Ohio State this year than Will Howard. Boy, did they shoot themselves in the foot with that move. It's so funny. Ohio State literally had a better quarterback and got rid of him for this guy. Now, on Miami losing, Miami loses to Syracuse again, 42-38. It's a sad waste by Miami. They're 10-2. A good year wasted. They lost to Syracuse and Georgia Tech. Now Miami's not even in the ACC title game. They're not going to make the college football playoff. They're out. It's done. The ACC title game is going to be 11-1 SMU against 9-3 Clemson, because their in-conference records were better. So SMU, their only loss was BYU, who's playing for the Big 12 title. It's a good loss by them. 11-1 for SMU. Can they win the ACC? That would be a team that got a death penalty years ago coming back. Kind of interesting. I want to share a really crazy stat, because North Carolina just fired their head coach, Mac Brown. And the result of that is this weird reality where there are only 2 active head coaches currently coaching in college football that have won a national title. 2. Kirby Smart at Georgia and Dabo Swinney at Clemson. They each have 2 national titles apiece. No one else coaching in college football has a national title. Now, Dan Lanning won one as a defensive assistant at Georgia. That doesn't count. So it's very likely we're going to see a team win a national title with a coach that's never won one before this year. Now, maybe Kirby Smart and Georgia do it. They could. I want to see the new guy do it. That'd be kind of fun. Be kind of interesting. Kind of exciting. Now, there is an issue that popped up in college football this weekend. Oh, it's a real, man, It really fires me up. I see it and I go, oh, I just have such a strong emotional reaction. I don't. It's stupid. Planting the flag makes people really angry, apparently. Here's what happened. Michigan beats Ohio State at Ohio State in Columbus. Michigan plants their flag at midfield in the Ohio State Stadium. Or Florida planted a flag at midfield after beating Florida State. Is it Doak Walker or Doak Campbell? The stadium in Florida State. I don't remember the name. I don't really care. NC State beats North Carolina. They plant their flag on the North Carolina field. Arizona State plants their flag on Arizona's field after a really narrow victory, 49-7. So this is being called bad sportsmanship. You beat the team at their stadium. You plant your flag to make a little symbolic gesture. You see fights breaking out. People are all pissed off. Florida State head coach Mike Norvell is really angry about it. Don't do that on my field. Blah. Okay, get out of here. Come on. I don't know why it bothers people. I try to it's funny given what I do talking about other people, but I really in my everyday life don't care what other people do. Live your life. Don't mess with me. But I don't know. Hey, now maybe you could take it. You are messing with me. You're planting your flag on my stadium, I guess, but I don't. It's like, we should have beat you. And that's kind of where this all goes is, this is a trend started by Baker Mayfield that I kind of love. I think it's kind of fun. It's a way to smack talk. It's a way to rub it in. And Coach Dan Casey, friend of the show, I love him. He's probably my favorite football person in the world. Love the guy. He tweeted a very simple solution, I might add. Really, really hilariously simple way to handle this. Dan Casey tweeted this. The easiest way to stop the other team from planting a flag on your field is to win the game. Yep. If you don't like it, win. And if you can't handle the trash talk, then win. It's results. If you don't get it done, don't complain about how they handle their celebration. If you don't like their celebration, you should have beat them. But if you lose a game, you can't control what happens next for that other team. Not really. Not with trivial stuff like a celebration. Come on now. You're all offended. Why weren't you offended in physical during the game? When they were kicking your ass. You're going to get in a fight during the post-game celebration? How about be angry, be physical? Show some emotion like that during the game. I don't know. It's a weird conundrum to me. But keep planting the flag. I hope they don't get rid of it in college football. It's fun. It's a way to trash talk, and I'm all for all of that. Let's end with this today. A guy you're familiar with, I'm sure, Andrew Luck, former Stanford quarterback, former Indianapolis Colts quarterback, number one pick in the draft. He replaced Peyton Manning. You probably know the name Andrew Luck if you're any kind of football fan of any degree. He's back in football. He's coming back. He's not playing football, by the way. He's done with that. But Andrew Luck took a job as the general manager of Stanford football. Kind of interesting because his dad, Oliver Luck, was a football executive. And it's really interesting because it could lead to other stuff. I wonder what Andrew Luck does after this. Does he become, maybe he's the next NFL commissioner. When Roger Goodell walks away into the sunset, Andrew Luck would be a really compelling, interesting NFL commissioner. But it's fascinating. He's not a broadcaster. Andrew Luck is going into the executive world of football. And that's cool to me. Now, I have very little confidence in Stanford football. I don't know how you get recruits there. I don't think the school cares about football. I don't think they want to win. I think they're more interested in other nonsense at that campus in Palo Alto. However, Andrew Luck is in charge of Stanford football now. He's the highest ranking official. He's the president of football at Stanford. He only answers to the president of the college, basically. And I wonder what his plan is. He's got a plan. They hired him for a reason. I don't know if he's going to make a difference. I don't know what he's going to do. I don't know what the approach is. I don't know how you win at Stanford. I really don't know. But if anyone does know, it's a guy who played there. I know things that I was involved with. I have ideas how to make them better. Everywhere I've ever been, college, jobs, this, that, whatever, you see the dysfunction of something and you see what it could become and you have a vision for it. Like, we can make these tweaks and make it work. I'm sure Andrew Luck has a plan, has an idea. I want to know what his pitch was in the interview process. As the decision was made to make Andrew Luck the GM of Stanford football, what did he tell Stanford? What did he say that they went, that's compelling. You know what? Let's do it. Screw it. Let's make that happen. What did he say? What's his plan? I don't know. I want to know. I can't wait to find out. That's what's cool about it. We're going to see something happen. I don't know when. Could be years from now, frankly. But at some point, we're going to see Andrew Luck doing magical, interesting stuff at Stanford. I think. I hope. Maybe not. Maybe they just suck forever. But I don't think he would take that. He's rich. He doesn't need to do anything. And maybe it just sounds fun to be involved at Stanford, whatever. Maybe he doesn't take it seriously, but I don't see Andrew Luck as the kind of person to take a job if he doesn't really care and take it seriously. He's going to approach it the way he approached playing quarterback. I know because I approach everything I do the way I played quarterback. My job now, I work in sales. I'm a quarterback. I prepare, I study, I make adjustments, I self-analyze. For lack of a better term, I watch the tape on myself. What could I have done better every day, all the time? Andrew Luck is going to have that approach to being the Stanford general manager. And that's interesting. Because again, I don't have ideas. I don't know how to make Stanford football good. I don't. But I'm sure he does. And that's what I want to see. What nugget of information does he have that I don't? What is his plan? What's his idea? He better have one. I hope he does. I'll be sad if he doesn't. But I can't wait to watch it play out because I don't know what happens from here. And it's certainly interesting. It's certainly fun. And I for one, am way, way more invested in Stanford football now than it was 24 hours ago. Before that, or whatever. I think it was announced Friday, technically. So whenever that, before and after. Before Andrew Luck and after Andrew Luck at Stanford. And I didn't care about them a week ago. Now, I got my eyes, my binoculars all over Stanford football. What's going to happen? I don't know. But I can't wait to find out. Guys, I love you. I appreciate you. I hope you have a great day. I'm going to edit this. I'm going to go to Kinko's and print some stuff. It's not a sponsor. I just got to print some stuff and laminate it. Go to a meeting at 12. I love you. I appreciate you. I hope you have a great day. And bam, we are